Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View. It's Derry Clinch with you for the next hour. Coming up on the show, we will look ahead to this weekend's Ennis Carpets Clare Cup final, where Newmarket Celtic put their title on the line against Avenue United. Clare ladies football and camogie sides are facing crucial championship games, with both eyeing up quarter-final spots. And we'll also talk to Ennistymon Hurling Club as part of our More Than a Club series. Soccer, though, is where we start this evening, as the 2026 Ennis Carpets Clare Cup champions will be crowned this weekend. Rivals Newmarket Celtic and Avenue United will write the latest chapter of their recent history when they go to head-to-head at Frank Keeley Park in Dura on Saturday evening. Newmarket are bidding to make it back-to-back crowns, while Avenue will be looking to regain the title that was taken from them by Newmarket 12 months ago. Ahead of that, Clare FM's Derek Dormer has been speaking to both camps, starting with Newmarket manager Alan Goff and his thoughts on the rivalry between the two clubs.
Yeah, it's a big rivalry, but I've been involved in big games myself before, where I've played for a team in Belfast called Glentoran, who will be predominantly a Protestant team, and their biggest rivals will be Linfield, and you have 13,000 people at that baying for blood. But it's healthy. It pushes Avenue on, it pushes Newmarket on, and we'll embrace it, and it's a cup final, and it's a big rivalry, but listen, that's to be expected. We're only, 10 or 15 miles out the road from them, so embrace it. It's great.
The Avenue captain, Ronan, he's stepping in, Ronan Curran, he said it to me, he described it to me as the biggest rivalry in Clare sport, and I think he's right. Throughout Gaelic games, whatever, Newmarket and Avenue, if you put it on in a car park, you draw a crowd.
Well, I can't speak about the Clare Hurling or the Clare GAA, to be perfectly honest with you. And I know they're very competitive, and I know the 20s won the All-Ireland against Galway there at the weekend. All I can comment on is our, rivalry with Avenue, and again, I've been there for two games this year. We drew with them here 0-0, and we were very fortunate to beat them 1-0 up in Avenue. So they're competitive games. I know the lads look forward to it. I look forward to it. So it's, the guys know they're going to have to be up for it, and you expect that in a cup final. That's the way it is.
That league win that you had, it took a moment of magic. Let's be honest, Dean Hegarty, it was a moment of brilliance. The other game, 0-0. So there's very little, and there's fine margins when you're competing at this level, isn't it?
Very much so. It's on the day, bit of luck, whatever can go for you. Who embraces the occasion? It can be a referee decision, it can be various bits and pieces. And you're right, Dean got a wonderful goal that day, but I have to say, as you know, Darrow was sent off. We were down to 10 players for, I would say, 40 minutes in the second half plus injury time. And as a man, our team defended magnificently that day. And I've done a few interviews now with a build up into the cup final, and I have to comment on the application from the players this year. It's been first class, really has. And we said to them at the start of the season, this is a legacy football club, so every game is a big game. So this is a big game at the weekend, but every game we go out, the players are aware they've got to represent themselves, the club, and more important, the community. And we've tried to do that with integrity this year, and I think we've managed to achieve that.
I spoke with Owen Hayes just before you speak with yourself, and he said to me that he feels that you have instilled steel into the market, steel that he felt was missing for a couple of years, and he feels that everyone goes out in a red jersey, plays for you and plays 100%. Now, as a manager, if you hear a player say that, surely that must give you pride.
Well, it does, of course. Owen is a very decorated player. He's played for Ireland. He's one of the Newmarkets, if not one of their best players of all time, and to hear that is a great compliment, and I very much appreciate it. But I don't know what's gone on here the last couple of years. My affection with Newmarket is Pat McDade, who sponsors the Ennis Carpets Clare Cup, spoke to me at the start of the year, and where I live I didn't really want to do it, to be perfectly honest with you. And I met Shane and I met Owen, kind of did it the back way around type of thing. I just wanted to see if there was an appetite from the players, if they were prepared to do the work this year, and they've done it. So it's not about me, it's about the collective here, and we speak about that on a regular basis. The likes of Ian Collins, who's got a really bad injury now, has done his ACL in. Young Kelvin McQueen, 15 when he played for us, he's now 16, playing in a semi-final last day. He's playing in the kids match there tonight. He asked me, is he starting the weekend? And that's the kind of stuff that keeps me young, because I'm 55, and when we registered him this year, he was 15, so that was a birth date of 2010. How old do I feel? But it's great, it invigorates you. So they're a great group, and I'm delighted to be working with them.
An unbeaten league campaign. Now, and I said this to Owen Hayes as well, that wouldn't be out of the norm from the market over, the last 10, 15 years. But the Clare soccer wasn't at the strength at the levels it is at now. It was a four-way title race last year. It was a four-way title race this year. Bridge, Tulla, Avenue and yourselves. And to go unbeaten with the quality of the opposition, that's that really is impressive stuff, Alan. And I know you don't like taking plaudits, but that is to go unbeaten with Tulla during the last 16 of Ireland. We know how good the Bridge are, and we know how good Avenue are. It's been a hell of a year.
Well, I have to say from the start, about 4 or 5 years ago, I co-managed Cool. We won the first division, and Tulla came up. And I see the progression they've made as a club since then, and they're competing at the high end of this league now. But as I said earlier, Derek, every game for Newmarket, if we'd lost one game this year, we would have lost the league. And that's the level that's there now, to be perfectly honest with you. I always say this, we played Ennistymon. Jack Kelly gets a winner in the 96th minute. We go to Shannontown only a few weeks ago. It's 0-0. Shane makes a great save at 0-0 to keep us in the game. So there's loads of pivotal moments over the course of the year, but they've worked really hard, and they deserve great credit.
Alan, like, the quality in Clare soccer, I mean, you would have seen, as you said, a few years back with Cool, and you were referencing Tulla there. It has dramatically improved in the last 4 years, because there's teams winning outside of the county, there's teams beating big clubs, perceived big clubs, and sure, Newmarket are royalty when it comes to soccer.
Well, again, I can't speak about stuff that's gone on in the past. I can only comment on what we've managed to achieve this year. And I did an interview earlier on there today, and I just feel facilities in the county of Clare need to be improved on from a soccer basis. It's above my pay grade, but I see the facilities that are here on a GAA basis, and I've managed in Mayo, I've managed in Galway, and I see the facilities that they have there, and I don't know how we're going to get there. We're very fortunate. We've got 2 excellent pitches, but we've outgrown this. This is a massive football club. Our AstroTurf really is not fit for purpose, but there's a massive fundraising campaign here to upgrade our facilities, our dress rooms, etc. So we're trying to go in the right direction, but I don't know if that's funding from the council, funding from whoever.
Would you equate that with, like, seeing as you're touching it, Tulla have fantastic facilities, Avenue have both pitches, their own clubhouse, Bridge have their own clubhouse and 2 pitches. Is it a reason why you're the top 4 teams in the county, facilities?
I don't know. Maybe that is a reason, to be perfectly honest with you. I hadn't thought about it. But I just think for the good of Clare soccer, I think facilities need to improve. We're trying here. Jody Halpin, our chairman, looks after the pitches here. And I think at the end of the season, we had 6 games left. We had 5 away and 1 at home. And that was testament to the quality of our pitches and the work that he does on it. As I said to you, our AstroTurf that we're standing on now is not fit for purpose. They know that. We're trying to address it. We've problems with our own football club. We're trying to address it. We've good people that are working in the background here. The likes of Grania Hayes, or Grania Cregan. I keep calling her Grania Hayes, is our own sister. Great girl in the background. Jody Halpin, our chairman. Liam Murphy. All people that I deal with on a daily basis are so positive, and will try and help you in any way you can to try and push the thing forward.
You referenced it earlier on, and again there, it's the collective, isn't it? And with Newmarket Celtic, it's like a big family.
Yeah, I have to say, since I've come in here, and again I spoke about Pat McDade, he would be an outsider, I'm an outsider, but in fairness to them here, they've been absolutely superb in terms of what can we do, how can we help you, because don't forget, we had to try and turn a deficit of 10 points behind Avenue from last year, and that was our first objective this year, to try and close the gap. And again, I come back to credit the players, how good they've been, and like the work we've done here, and people don't know this, but we train up there, and you know, on a Tuesday night in November when the muck is up to their shins and these lads are giving me everything you want, that's where the work is done, away from the bright lights. So they deserve their day. They deserve to win a league title. They deserve to get to a cup final and all the rest of the bits and pieces that go with it.
And it's the biggest day in Clare soccer, the cup final. It's the biggest 2 teams and it's the biggest rivalry. So when you put all 3 together, it's going to be an electric occasion, a packed house, and I put it to you that all 22 players that will start deserve to play in front of a crowd, deserve that atmosphere, and deserve all the attention they get this week.
100%, but I would say it again what I said earlier on, Derek. Avenue and ourselves, every game is a big game. Because if you go out and get beaten any occasion, like there's a major inquisition why you've been beaten. So it's a cup final, it's on the day, it's a bit of luck, it could be a refereeing decision. Hopefully it's not a mistake, hopefully it's a bit of brilliance. And we're very much looking forward to it. We've trained tonight, the mood is good in the camp. We'll do another bit again during the week and we'll get ready for Saturday.
And finally, Alan, as a manager, domestically, I mean, no matter what else about going outside the county or FAI, Munster Juniors, whatever, domestically, you want to be league champions and you want to win your cup, because that's where you're judged at, really, isn't it?
Well, when you're at a big football club like Newmarket and Avenue, yes, I think it is. That's where the pole that you've got to try and get to where you want to try to achieve. And we've managed to do that in the league this year. As I said, we've turned the 10-point deficit around from last year. Now we've a cup final ahead of us. Didn't really think about it too much because our focus has really been on the league, to be perfectly honest with you. We've a small squad. We've had a few injuries. Hopefully we get a few of them back now for the weekend. and we're ready to go. As I said, we're preparing as diligently as we can, and hopefully we'll come out on the right side of it.
And when Pat McDade came to you, and when Shane Cusick and Owen Hayes, and you sat down and spoke to them all, did you write down on a piece of paper domestic double or I'm in trouble?
No, not at all. As I said to you, and again, I'd like to be consistent with everybody in my life, my family, people I work with the players. Our objective, as I said to you earlier on, was to cut the deficit on Avenue, to try and claw into that lead, because in my opinion, Newmarket shouldn't be finishing behind 10 points behind anyone in this league. So again, the lads have done it with an incredible amount of hard work, bit of fortune, bit of luck, etc., but ultimately it's come down to what they've done this year.
And with all you've experienced, Glentour and Longford Town, everything you've experienced, Clare Cup final, you'd like that cup Saturday evening, wouldn't you? As a manager, I mean, you have to have personal pride too, Ellen.
Of course you have personal pride. And look, listen, we were very fortunate. We've won the league this year, and we're delighted with that. This is a bonus. I always find cup finals are about the supporters, and I have to comment on our support here at Newmarket. They've been absolutely brilliant this year. We've always had roughly 250 people that turn out at our games, and they've travelled. You were there. We spoke in Tipperary when we played St Michael's. They travelled to Waterford. They travelled to Galway. They were in Limerick with us. Absolutely great set of supporters. Lovely people are there in good and bad. All they want is positivity, and lads are working as hard as they can.
Newmarket Celtic manager Alan Goff there. There's also new management in Avenue this year as Adrian Walsh completes his first term in charge, having taken over from David Russell. He feels the cup final is always one to be savoured.
We're looking forward to it, I suppose, at the start of the season. If you'd have told me we'd be in a cup final, I would have grabbed it with both hands. The way the league has kind of gone with Bridge United and Tulla, Shannon Town the start of the year, and the Market and ourselves, so it's a kind of a, it was kind of nip and tuck, I suppose, towards the end of last season, and you could feel teams coming on. There was a kind of a 3 and 4 horse race, and we felt that with the league and stuff, it was going to be dissimilar, but we're just happy to be in the final, and looking forward to it, as I said, on Saturday evening. You
come into the year league champions. 10 points was the difference, and I know that now from speaking to the Newmarket camp. And their aim was to reduce that 10-point deficit, but they did more than that. They took your league title. Walla, you have to be hurting.
Yeah, but sure, obviously, we've I've said openly, it's been a disappointing season from a club point of view, in terms of the first team, like we set out at the start of the season to win the domestic cups, the 2 cups, the League Cup, the Clare Cup and the league, and that's our bread and butter, so to have to hand that over is it's a sore one, but again, as I kind of stated openly, we've lost a lot of kind of leaders throughout the season. It's not an excuse, but I'm sure if Newmarket lost the likes of Owen Hayes, Shane Cusick, Kevin Hartnett for the season, we could be looking at a totally different scenario in terms of league and cup, to be honest. So we're disappointed, I suppose, that we didn't be closer in the league and maybe win the league. But in terms of the players like McGann, Mark Roach, Conor Mullen injured, Conor Hare injured, Elias Kunz played 2 games, a game and a half, I think. So they've been the spine of the team really, for the last 6-7 years, and have won trophy after trophy. So losing them was difficult, but we are where we are now. We're doing we're looking to do a lesser double as opposed to the league and cup. We're looking to do both cups.
Those players that you've referenced there that you lost, that's a huge blow. But I'd put it to you still have a dressing room packed with serial winners.
Yeah. The Ronan Kearns of this world, Jack Ryan has come in, stepped up. He was signed last season, and he stepped up to the plate this year. We got a few boys down from Matt and Roy, I suppose. Sean O'Callaghan there as well, senior. Really, really good lads, good lads in the dressing room. And then we've sprinkled that then with, I suppose, a good crop of kind of youth, young Ryan Mahoney, Ryan McCarthy at the start of the season, George Quinn, a couple of more B team lads, Matthew Conway, so, and then you have your Colin McCabe, Luke Woodrow, Cuba, and they're all young, so I suppose we're young, but you're still missing. I wouldn't say missing, but that leadership, that real core leadership. We still have serial winners, but there's still a few more to add to it, I suppose.
I'd put it to you that you also have the best player in the county in
Yeah, we've held on to Nat, which is really really good, and he's an absolute stalwart. Like he's an absolute machine. Um, and I suppose look, we're I suppose maybe slightly in a little bit of a transitional period, but like having the likes of Ronan Kearns, and we kind of got Jack Joyce in as well, like so they're really good footballers, like on time. These boys make any team, a lot outside of Clare as well, like
And you're saying transition now, Adrian, but like that Avenue B side, they won the second division title.
Yeah.
Sprinkled with those young fellas you're talking about. So the conveyor belt is still here.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And you look down to the youths as well, like there's a couple of good youths players as well. We had up Salim was playing with us there for a while, and Darlington, like these guys are they're kind of ones to watch. No more than down in the market. Scott McQueen, Kelvin McQueen, these boys, like the same with Avenue. Like there's a tradition, I suppose. And I would be of the ilk. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you're good enough to hold your own inside in the first team session, you'll be playing. If you put in the hard yards, you'll be in. Like you'll get your chance. Like so.
After the Ennistymon victory, and look, it was facile enough as we know. But you being the perfectionist that you are, you were. I could see you were cross conceding the goal, but I also felt that you were more angry that it was conceded from a set piece. And, you were at the game the night before, the opening 2 goals for Newmarket, both Conor McDaid deliveries, both set pieces, both into the back of the net. That's an area where I'm sure you'll be working on all this week, because Newmarket are prolific from corners and free kicks.
Yeah, sure. I suppose what you're going to see Saturday is probably 2 contrasting games, types of football, and that's not disrespect to the market. They have a way of playing, and that's their way, and they're top notch at playing that way. Set pieces is part of their game, a massive part of their game. So look, we've worked on it all year, and you're right. I was disappointed. At half time. I couldn't believe we conceded, to be honest about it. So you could call it perfectionism, but you like clean sheet is massive, and it's going to be massive on Saturday. Clean sheet could win you the game. One goal could win you the game. It could be
70% of goals are scored from set pieces.
Well, there you go. So look, we work on defending and attacking set pieces. I'm sure the market do as well. It's a huge part of their game. So we're well aware of what they'd be up to.
And look, I know I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but set pieces do tend to revolve around the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And you've had several goalkeepers.
Yeah.
You don't have and maybe I'm wrong, but you don't have a nailed on number 1. Is that an area of concern, or are you quite happy to have the choices that you have?
Yeah, I'm delighted. Like, we have 3 top keepers. We have TJ Ford from Galway, and he won a Connacht Cup with Athenry. We have Cuba, who's played League of Ireland 20s up to League of Ireland 20s all the way up, and is an Avenue lad. And we've Luke Woodrow, who's he's a monster of a keeper, So we're blessed that we have that, because last season at one point, I think Paulie Roach might have had to go on goals, so we were kind of struggling that way, So it doesn't really matter for me. For me, like outfield players as well, some people might say consistency and settle keeper and this, that and the other thing, but every player needs to know their job and needs to step in and out of the team. So it could be a centre half. Some centre halves that we have might be able to play in the 6, fullbacks playing a little bit higher, but everybody needs to know their job, and the goalkeeper is no different. We've had a plan all year, and lads have dipped in and out, so we just are where we are.
Speaking of goalkeepers and goals, the 2 semi-finals, 7 goals in one, 9 in the other. That's 16 goals in 2 matches.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a betting, well, I am a betting man. There's no way there's going to be anything near that amount of goals on Saturday. You'd imagine this will be tight, tense, and I'd put it to maybe 1 goal could settle it.
Yeah, I suppose the games since I've come into Avenue, we've had last season we went there and beat them 3-0. They came up to our place. We had a man sent off to beat us 4-2. I think it could have been Munster Junior. I think. This season we went down there 0-0. Really, really good competitive game of football. And they came up here then in the league 1-0 worldy goal from Dean Hegarty. Absolute cracker of a goal, a moment of magic. Really, really good goal. And that was a deciding factor. So I wouldn't be surprised if a goal wins it. I don't think the floodgates are going to open. I just think that both defences are too good for the floodgates to open in a game like that. And as you said, look, I was at the semi-final, 4-3, probably, I don't know, maybe the sending off had a bit to do with that. Like, I thought it was a bit more probably one-sided than what people are thinking.
And look, come Saturday, again with the goals, the goalkeepers, and the tight nature, like it could come down to a shootout. And I mean, what is your philosophy on that? Now, a lot of people say you can't practice for the situation, but I believe you can practice kicking the ball into a net.
You can practice kicking the ball. I'm not a believer in that because I think it instills a mindset, a kind of a small little bit of a fear. So I don't like it. I don't like it when boys practice, and sometimes they do stay on practice penalties and stuff like that. But I'm a big believer in just going for it, So we'll be going for it if it does happen to go to extra time. We'll be going for it. Like shootouts are toss of a coin. Do you know what I mean? You see the Champions League final, it's a toss of a coin.
But in those shootouts, like you could see, even in your reference to the Champions League final, you could see the few minutes are spent with both goalkeepers, showing where players, usually put the ball. Will you have the research in that? Harvey Cullen and Owen Hayes will be hitting them if it comes to it.
Yeah, probably. Look, we'd probably know more about the Marcus penalties than they would about our penalties.
Are you saying you didn't get enough this year?
No, I'm just I'll leave that there.
The views there of Avenue manager Adrian Walsh ahead of tomorrow's Ennis Carpets Clare Cup final. That one's set for a 5 o'clock start in Frank Keeley Park in Doura tomorrow evening. Back shortly here on Sideline View. And welcome back to Sideline View here on Clare FM. Well, this weekend we have 2 critical games for Clare's ladies footballers and camogie sides at both eye-up places in an All-Ireland quarter-final. Derek Dormer with us. Look ahead to both those games. We will start, Derek, on Saturday, I guess, in Zimmerbeim at Park Yasog. Clare camogie side looking to make it 3 wins from 3. Quite the start to the season, in fairness.
Yeah, it's been brilliant for them, Derek, absolutely brilliant. And in fairness to all involved, you have to give them credit. Like, to me, they're a transformed unit from 12 months ago. They just look physically far stronger, far fitter, far faster. And the proof is in the results. Like, I think they've lost 1 game all year, and that was extra time by a point to Waterford, who are in the top 4 sides in Ireland. So it's been tremendous for Eugene Foodie, Aaron Constein and all the girls, and just hopefully they can continue this weekend with Limerick coming.
And it's been a hectic start as well to this championship. This is their 3rd week in a row being out. They're at home, okay, big journey to Wexford last week, but a real sense that a 3rd victory could well see the job done before they face a well-earned break.
Yeah, it'd be a massive result, and it would basically put them into the quarter final. They'll have Offaly and Kilkenny then left to play after that, and the greatest respect of Offaly, Clare would be very well fancied to take care of Offaly. So a win against Limerick, I do think Clare are better than Limerick, but the near neighbour factor, the rivalry, the familiarity, all that comes into it, and it does tend to take a life of its own. So it's a big game, but it's a game I'd be quietly confident that Clare can get over the line.
And I'd imagine a message from management this week will be that if Clare are eyeing up getting to Croke Park and potentially getting to a semi-final if they get that opportunity, well then this is a game at home that you have to be winning.
Yeah, and you have to send a message around to every other team that Clare are coming. We're on our way, you know what I mean? And the greatest respect to Limerick, I guarantee it, if they would take Galway or Cork or Tip in the morning, you're looking at 10-15 points. So for Clare, you have to be laying down a marker. They've done that all year. They've beaten Dublin, drew with them on opening round the league, beat them in the league final, beat them in the championship, and Dublin have been in All-Ireland quarterfinals regularly over the last 5 years. So for Clare to make that step up and to make that statement, okay, no disrespect to the other counties, but we're moving in the right direction, and put Limerick to bed and move on, and that's the way it should be done. It's all about the result, Derek. Just get the job done, book your place in the last 8, and fear nobody then, because look, they've done tremendous work. I don't know the situation with Lorna Mack. She's named on the team, but we don't know. Look, she's an all-star already, Derek. She's been absolutely incredible since her return to Clare, and they've all reaped the benefits from it.
Is there a sense that there's a bit of depth and quality building in this Clare squad now? Because we saw Maeve Madej come on the last day when Lorna went off injured and got her goal. Like Anya O'Loughlin was tearing things up for club and county the last couple of years. She's kind of having to be content with a place on the bench. There's plenty of other players coming on making a difference as well. So that's I suppose a little bit of depth that they've built.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, I mean, if Anya O'Loughlin can't start,
And that's no, I'm not trying to be controversial to the manager or anything, like that's their decision. If she can't start, that to me showcases the quality that you do have available. Because if she can't make her starting six, that's a fair starting six to have, because she'd make most camogie teams in the country. So that'll show you the strength and depth of the squad. And look, everyone's bought into what Eugene Frudy's brought to the table, and it just seems to be a happy camp, a hard working camp, and a very focused camp. And you have to, take your hat off to them. They really have taken the bit by the horns all year and just delivered and delivered. And no matter what's been thrown at them in games, they've been able to adapt and get over the line. And winning breeds confidence. It really, really does. And I'm sure they'll walk out into that field shoulders high. We're league champions. We've beaten Limerick, below Limerick already. This will get us to a quarter final. Let's show everybody that we mean business. I just honestly, I really do feel they've done a remarkable job in the last 12 months.
Is there any slight concern maybe that there's been a bit of a trend in games where they've maybe let the opponents back into it? Like, it took an insurance point below in Wexford to win the game. It took a fantastic save from Dirren to win the game against Dublin. Just in the last maybe 10 minutes of games, are they opening a window a small bit?
Maybe there's a lack of focus as in you switch off, but you find in these elite games, Derek, that a lot of teams get purple patches. Maybe it's just happening that the teams that Clare are playing in camogie at the moment are getting the purple patch late on, but sometimes the team get a purple patch 10 minutes into the first half and have 1-5 on the board, and teams will score in clusters, as they say, when they're on top. So the most important thing is that Clare didn't buckle when the teams came back at them, that they did get the job done. And that shows experience, that shows development, because the greatest respect, they wouldn't have got the job done 2 or 3 years ago. They'd have been reeled in or overawed or not able to handle that purple patch that the opposition have. Whatever you throw at this bunch, they seem to just throw back at you twofold. So, I wouldn't be worried about that too much, Derek.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get the job done again. As we said, that would, I'd say, pretty much put them into a quarter final. They have games against Kilkenny and Offaly to come after that as well. The ladies footballers then, they go to Laois, fate in their own hands. A second win would see them obviously top the thing. Anything else, and you're looking at the other result to see how many teams finish on how many points. But I suppose after a difficult couple of months, real character building stuff to cut off that disappointment, I guess, and register what was, albeit a dramatic victory for a finish, but an impressive one all the same against Wexford.
Very impressive for 45, 46 minutes. The best football I've seen Clare play since Wayne Freeman's first year, when they were, in the National League and All-Ireland final. So it's been 3 or 4 years now since I've seen Clare play that well. And yeah, look, I've been very critical of the ladies footballers, and I don't mean to be. I just think they didn't embrace the new rules at the start. Things just didn't seem right. But all that has been just magically dealt with. In fairness, you have to give credit to them. I mean, there were one kick of a ball from being in the bottom tier of ladies football in the league. They would have been down in Division 4. They managed to salvage the Division 3 status after suffering a relegation from Division 2 the year before. So it's just been negativity. But yet, come the championship, shoulders out, it's summertime, let's go. And, they've got that win. Any result, any positive result now will give them a home quarter final. Even a close defeat will probably still secure them a quarter final. Laois were in the All-Ireland final last year. They've had a bit of turmoil, a bit of change, but that happens in ladies football. We've seen it in our own county. It's very hard to have a consistent team over a couple of years that you do need to have. And that's why the Dublins, Corks and Meads have won All-Irelands. It's because they've the same 15 players basically talking out for 3 years in a row. Other counties seem to struggle at that, especially in ladies football, and we have too. But this is an exciting bunch of young players, Derek, and while it may take time, the future is certainly bright. I mean, you just have to look at Spanish Pint, the Kildare, Coláiste, the Clare Minors getting to the Minor A final. Like, there's just a wealth of talent here in the county. So hats off to Graham Shine and Niall Hickey. Look, they've taken the criticism. They've never backed away from interviews, asking questions, and they've got on with their job. And that's all you can ask of a bunch of players and a management team. Get on, do your job, ignore the outside noise. They've done that. And it's been a remarkable turnaround.
Good stuff. Well, 2 o'clock start in O'Moore Park, Portlaoise for that one on Sunday afternoon. Derek, thanks for that. Up next here on Sideline View, we have our latest in the More Than a Club series.
This feature, More Than a Club, is funded by Commission na Man with the television licence fee.
In our latest More Than a Club series, we are pointing our gaze northwards to the Ennistymon Hurling Club, and delighted to have Kieran Harvey and Peter Casey with us to talk all things hurling in Ennistymon, in the famed North Clare Market Town and beyond as well. Kieran, it's a club with a great storied history, some fantastic people involved. Give us a flavour.
Yeah, thanks Derek for having us on. So I suppose in GA terms our history is relatively young in that we were only formed in 1977, so next year will be a notable 50-year anniversary, so the timing of this programme is fairly appropriate. But I suppose we were formed in 1977, as I say. I suppose it was against the backdrop of a renewed interest in hurling in the locality. You know, if you think back to Clare's winning 2 league titles in 77 and 78, there had been good work done in the vocational school in the monastery around the time. But, you know, forming a club at that time had proved unsuccessful in previous decades. There had been smatterings of it in townlands of Clonagh and Fergal and that, but there was no real structures put in place. But I suppose the tipping point came, and our neighbours in Ina might be surprised to learn this. I suppose Ina played Cratloe in the Junior A final in 1976, the year before we were formed. And there were 7 Ennistymon players that started with Ina in that team that lost to Cratloe. So, you know, the feeling at the time, Derek, was that, geez, Ennistymon have a great hurling presence here. Why don't they go and start a club on their own? And that's exactly what we did. So, you know, the lads that started up, you know, with the likes of, say, John Hines and Phil Fahey. Phil passed away last year, of course. Tom Stackpool and Owen Maguire was our first chairperson. So they got things up and running. And within 6 years, you know, we had won a Junior B League and Championship double in 1983, and we'd already had a second team at that stage there. No. So even though our history was very young at that point, such was the interest and passion that was there, you know, we really hit the road running. So it's grown gradually from there. We've obviously had peaks and valleys during that time. I suppose notable timelines was, you know, in 1999 we won a Junior A League title, and then 5 years later we won Junior A Championship 2004. Now, we'd lost 2 finals in a run up to that, so that was a really sweet one to win at the time. And you know, we've been trying to steadily build up to the grades through that, and you know, obviously great coaches in the club that are doing great work. Always looking for more coaches, like so many clubs. But you know, our history is fairly young, but there's a great passion there for it, you know, so hoping to keep building on that. And
it must have been a savage boost to the lads that put their shoulder to the wheel to set up the club, that if you had that success within a 6-year period, like, it was, I won't call it low-hanging fruit, but it was a worthwhile project.
Absolutely. I mean, the interest was always there, you know. There's great passion for hurling in Ennistymon and the broader Northwest Clare locality. It was just a case of getting the structures around it, you know. Obviously there's other sports that feature very prominently, most notably Gaelic football, but you know, it was a case of getting the structures in place, and once we did, people could see the great work that was being done, and the numbers expanded exponentially, really, you know, and we've been fairly healthy ever since then, really.
So give us an idea then of the hinterland that would be involved in I suppose maybe that first awning of the club. Where would they have come from?
Yeah, so for the most part it would have been within the fairly tight confines of Ennistymon. So I'm sure I'll test the geographic knowledge of your listeners with this, but we talk about townlands of Clonagh and Fergal and Moanreal. That's where the nucleus of it came from. Like I often tell lads, when we won the Junior A final in 2004, that 10 of that team that started were from the 2 tiny schools of Clonagh and Fergal. Now, just to give you an idea, Clonagh had a population of about 23 students at the time, Fergal even smaller. Right. So that was the real engine of the team at the time. Now, since then, as Peter would tell you, you know, we're taking players from a lot broader geographic area now, even places like Doolin, Liston, Varna, Kilshanny, obviously the Scanner, and more closely the Hinch. But in the early days, it was fairly confined to the rural hinterland of Ennistymon, and a bit from Ennistymon town, I guess, as well, yeah.
And it must have put awful pressure, in a good way, on the lads that set it up to say that a second team spawned so quickly, because we all know we all want more numbers, of course we do, but it doubles the workload as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, part of the reason that we were successful in those early years, okay, we had the talent in the players, we had the interest, but we also had people willing to put their hands up as coaches as well. You know, some of them, they might have been starting off with under 6s and under 7s that might have had very little hurling background themselves, but they had a passion for it. They wanted to learn about it. They wanted to get better, and getting the resources in place and getting the facilities in place as well. I suppose in those early days, Derek, we didn't have the Ennistymon pitch that we had at that stage. We were doing all our hurling out in the Hinch. The Ennistymon pitch, as your listeners will know it now, wasn't open until about 2002, and it did take a lot of time and a lot of money to get it up and running. But in those early days, we just had people who put their hand up, took responsibility, and drove the club forward.
And just on that 2004 win, and we'll bring in the underage now, which I suppose is Peter's real forte for people that know the great work he's doing around the county. But that 04 win, am I right in saying there was a very high-profile manager in that particular year?
Yeah, you're spot on. A certain Mr. Davy Fitz, we often tell visiting clubs that before all the high-profile success with LIT and Waterford and of course ourselves, Ennistymon Hurling was actually Davy's very first coaching assignment. So he would have been with us, I think, started out 2002, and as I say, we had agonising losses in the two county finals before that, but we got over the line in 2004, and lads who were at that game in Clare Abbey in the final against Woodtones would tell you about Davy's idea of blaring out Irish rebel music in the dressing rooms before the team went out, and opposing players and supporters looking on fairly bemused at what they were going to face here, but we comprehensively won that final anyway. So Davy did fantastic work for us. He had great faith in us, and he knew we could improve. He knew we could go to that next level in intermediate, and I would say when I look back on our history, we were probably at our peak, Derek, around that kind of late noughties, early 2010s phase. Like, I think in 2011 we got to an intermediate quarter final. Now bear in mind, this is before you had the split of Premier Intermediate, so this is the second tier of Clare Hurling. We lost very narrowly to Feakle, as in Feakle's first team, by 2 points in the intermediate quarter final in 2011. The year before that we'd lost very narrowly to 6 Mile Bridge. So, we were at a real high standard at that stage, Derek. Now, obviously, 2008, financial crisis, sudden loss of jobs, did hit us very hard. There's no point saying otherwise. We had a fair concentration of players that were in the kind of building and construction industry at the time, so it did hit us fairly hard. But, while a lot of listeners might view us as traditionally a football area, that track record that we have at that time shows that there was interest and passion for Clare Hurling, and there still is, and we were and still are capable of producing high quality players.
If I can bring it back to the music, was it the Wolf Tones? Was that the band of choice?
I think it was. Yeah, there was a bit of Chieftains and there was a bit of Wolf Tones and a few other things. Whether or not I defer to my coaching expert here and decide whether there's something in that going forward or not, but it was a fabulous day, and as I say, we built in that sense.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned there 2011 an intermediate quarter final. I think was it 3 years later Feakle actually went on to win that intermediate championship.
That's right.
So,
yeah, I mean, in 2011 I think we had actually beaten Whitegate in the first round. Again, that's Whitegate's first team. Whitegate actually went on to win that championship in 2011. And I say we did a pretty strong second team at that stage too. We were on the cusp of winning Junior B as well. So we had a lot of strength and depth at that stage. We want to get back to that. We have two teams as it stands today. We're a competitive Junior A team wanting to get up to intermediate. We also have a second team at Junior C that won the league last year, looking to try and win that Junior C championship this year. So we're conscious of our history, but we're always looking to drive on and move forward as well,
And part of that future then, of course, is the conveyor belt, which I suppose, Peter Casey, you're primarily tasked with. I know you're involved with that Junior C team as well, but how soon then, after the formation, does the underage element come into Ennistymon Hurling?
Well, I'm from this environment originally, so the thought originally of me being involved in Ennistymon would have been foreign to me. Just if I had thought about it years ago that I'd be involved in Ennistymon Hurling, I'd be nearly lynched where it's from. But I was involved. I was involved with the club in St. Breckens in Savannah, and I was also at the time got a job with their GA, and I was trying to do both roles. And I at the time it just got the whole thing in this environment. St. Breckens, we had a bit of success and we had a lot of teams, but we had very few coaches. And it kind of just fell, it got too much for the few of us to manage it, really. I remember going down to a foundation course one night. Maybe the underage had been let slip a little bit for a few years in Ennistymon, but a group of people got together. I remember going down and delivering one of my first foundation courses after getting the job to maybe 12 people in the room and being totally energized by the people that were there. These were people now that are parents of our existing players that we have probably in our junior A team. Like Niall O'Keefe, who was our chairman for the last number of years, his sister-in-law Maeve, and Rory O'Crohur, people like that who had been involved in coaching for the last number of years. And they were starting off with a group of under-8s in the hall in Ennistymon. I said, I'll come on board and I'll give you a bit of a hand for a few weeks or something like that. And I think that was probably 2011 or 2012. And that's you wouldn't feel 10, 12, 14 years going. So that group that were maybe under-8s at the time, they're 21, 22, 23 years of age now, and they're probably the backbone of our junior A team. And I'd say we've a lot of hope for them going forward. Hopefully they stay around and hopefully they stay playing.
Yeah, it must have been really great to have come in and seen a solid foundation there, something really good to build off that you knew there's going to be very little resistance to this. Yeah,
there was, as I said, great energy in the room, and parents who were really keen on their kids getting good coaching, good facilities. Like the community centre in Ennistymon was a great place for winter training. There's a great ball wall at the pitch, as you know, and the AstroTurf has gone in since. So that has been massive, like in terms of developing hurlers. Because I often say like people have to be able to hit the ball off a wall back to themselves first of all before they can hit the ball to somebody else, and they learn an awful lot from doing that. And then just good energy, like Kieran mentions that team that won the Junior A Championship. Like right now, a lot of that team are backbone and the coaching within the club. Like our chairman now is Jason Buckley. He was on that. You have the two Hogans, you have Martin Green, you have guys who are on that team who are heavily involved now in the underage because they're parents themselves and they're involved in the club.
And I know Kieran outlined there was a rich history going back to that set up in the 70s, but at the same time, West and North, you're in a football hotspot. So it does take a little bit more effort to get it off the ground and keep it going the way that you've done.
Yeah, it does. And I think we've made slow and steady progress over the last number of years. We've made a little bit of progress every year. First few years were hard when we were kind of getting up and you were getting beaten well, maybe in competition, and it was kind of hard to find a level. But then you start competing maybe against some of the smaller clubs. And eventually after that you start winning a couple of matches, and we've had a bit of underage success. And we've won a couple of failures. We won a failure last weekend again at under 15 with a group there as well. So we've had a bit of success and we had to stick with it. And I suppose in putting on my hat as we say the games development coordinator for the county, like I would have a view that it would be great if we would have a hurling club within maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes drive of every child's house. And maybe Ennistymon and Tubber are now looking after the North Clare region, and you're doing that in the West Clare region, and Kilkee-Balaha and South West Clare. And I think that's probably where you'd love to see this thing going, that we'd have 3 strong healthy clubs at that side of the county to cater for the kids who deserve the chance to play hurling.
And Kieran, I suppose when we think about it as that that football hotspot, and you're talking about Ennistymon, St. Brickens, going up to Ballyvaughan, all these places from a football sense, and you have it within the Clonbunny club. Kilmurray, Bricken and Milltown sometimes wouldn't agree on what day of the week it is, but when a Clonbunny jersey goes on, it's different. It's a different feeling. Was there ever, did that take a while to maybe materialise within the Ennistymon Hurling Club, where you were trying to park age-old football rivalries for fellas to come together under your banner?
Yeah, I suppose that comes back to one of the primary reasons why the club was founded in the way it was. I suppose unlike most clubs that would say start fielding a hurling team within the same club, the lads at the time said, no, we actually want to be a distinct entity altogether, Ennistymon Hurling Club, as opposed to a hurling team within Ennistymon GAA. And we adopted different colours for that. We were green and gold. And 50 years later, to this day, Derek, we still get some bemused visitors to the club that I thought Ennistymon were black and white. Why are they wearing green and gold? And they'd be grumpy lads like myself telling, no, this is Ennistymon Hurling Club that you're watching here now. So that distinct identity was established from the get-go, Derek. And notwithstanding that, we've always had a healthy, robust relationship with the football club. There's obviously a myriad of dual players there from juvenile right up to senior that love both codes and indeed love other sports as well. I suppose don't forget Derek and Ennistymon, there are not just GA but an awful lot of healthy sports clubs that provide a great service as well. Not just soccer but also a basketball club. There's obviously the small matter of Lahinch Beach there that offers a myriad of water sports and Lahinch Leisure World and all the rest of it. Golf, of course. Kids nowadays in Ennistymon, they have choices. So the onus is on us as the hurling club is to provide the very best service we can in terms of the facilities and also the coaching. So, identity is one thing, but obviously providing the best service we have, has to come along with it.
If somebody gave you a crystal ball that could grant you any wish and said to you, the next 5 years for Ennistymon Hurling Club, what do they look like?
Well, selfishly, I'd love us to get up to intermediate and then on to Premier Intermediate, because I really do believe we have the talent underage to do it. From a facilities perspective, though, I'd love to see us, expand our AstroTurf pitch a bit more, maybe get floodlights on the pitch, provide our players with the very best opportunity they can to maximise their potential. That's what the next 5 years looks like to me in an idealised world. Obviously, as I say, they have choices. They don't have to play hurling with us. We want them to play hurling with us. We want them to enjoy their hurling with us. And obviously, if we can get a bit of silverware in that 5-year term, we'd happily take that as well.
And from an underage perspective, Peter, is it the same kind of targets?
Yeah, I suppose do myself out of a job would be great. Get more coaches, so that we've more people doing more. I think certainly the schools have played a huge part in the development of it, and we've had, like Kieran mentioned, Cluna School, Ferglan School. They've been really supportive, like for small numbers. Those two schools, like, were really when we got going with the hurling. First of all, both those schools were the first probably to row in behind us. We've Mullinolga, the Steiner School. We have the new school in Ennistymon. Lahinch School is very supportive. The Scanner School is very supportive, and we've introduced hurling to Doolin, Kilshanny, Listonvarna and Kilfenora schools in recent years as well. So so they're very supportive. And then again, I think the secondary school has been a huge help to us as well. We've kids coming from Corofina, we've kids coming from Ina, so our local kids are getting a greater opportunity there. So for me, I suppose it's to keep that steady progress going, and not to take our eye off the ball. Like, we have the adult teams now, which we're really proud of, but every year there's a new group of 5 and 6 year olds coming in, starting for the first time. And I think if they get a good start for the first couple of years, then that's the makings of your under 13, under 15, under 17 teams in years to come after that.
And maybe you've seen this from both sides, both as a clubman and with your county hat on as well. Like, when you're in those areas where you have to work a little bit harder and it's not your traditional hurling area, and we've seen this in our own club as well, can it be scary to say, I'll go coaching, when you don't maybe have a background in it? Is a lot of this maybe for potential coaches to maybe demystify the game a small bit and say, listen, I'll actually learn along with the 5, 6 and 7 year olds, so that when they're 10, I've 3 or 4 years coaching under my belt and everybody benefits?
Yeah, it is, and it's only 3 or 4 years that we're very, very often that we need people for. Mention that first foundation course. A lot of them are gone from the club now. They're not coaching anymore, but they did massive work for the first 5 or 6 years of their kids playing. It's always babysitting, really, in one sense, but you can have a few people who have the know-how around hurling, but a lot of it is the crowd control, kind people being there. And I think just if we can encourage a few more parents just to stay around for the hour that the training is on, come on in, and maybe just even throwing a ball between 6 or 8 kids and play a little bit of a match, that's great, So we're working on that, but there's no club has it sorted. Every club, I think, is looking for people to, probably more people to get involved. But you're dead right. Like, it's a daunting process first of all, the thought of going in and being left with the sole responsibility of looking after kids. And we hope that we wouldn't leave people high and dry.
Yeah, I think it's the small acorn and the mighty oak, I think, comes to mind when you talk about the development made over the last 50 or so years. So as we wish you the very best of luck for the next 50, I suppose the next 5 first, and then we'll worry about the next 50 after. Kieran and Peter, thanks so much.
Thanks, Eric.
This feature, More Than a Club, is funded by Ennistymon with the television licence fee.
And we will be visiting more clubs in the next couple of weeks as well. That's where we have to leave you though for this week's Sideline View. Thanks very much indeed for tuning in. Sean Lyons is sitting in the West Wind hot seat this evening. I'll talk to you over the weekend.